Ever wonder where Elvis got his iconic jumpsuit look? Meet Wayne Cochran, the White Knight of Soul. This 1969 photo captures Elvis in Vegas with the man who arguably inspired his legendary stage style. Cochran, a flamboyant soul singer, was already wearing extravagant nudie suits and later jumpsuits during his own residency. He claimed he gifted Elvis a few suits, and when Cochran made the switch to jumpsuits, the king soon followed. Their friendship was genuine. Elvis once gifted Cochran a TCB necklace. Decades later, Cochran discovered it wasn't a souvenir, but solid gold, a private gift reserved only for Elvis's inner circle. Elvis Presley once owned a president's yacht. It sounds incredible, but in 1964, Elvis purchased the USS Potomac, the 165-foot vessel that once served as President Franklin D. Roosevelt's floating White House. After finding it in disrepair, Elvis spent thousands to restore it. His goal was purely charitable. On Valentine's Day 1964, he formally presented the yacht to Danny Thomas, the founder of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, during a ceremony in Long Beach. The plan was for the hospital to use the historic ship for fundraising. Though St. Jude eventually had to sell it to cover upkeep, this generous act highlighted Elvis's deep commitment to charity. When you're the king, you drive a car fit for royalty. This is the Stutz Blackhawk, one of Elvis's favorite automobile models in the 1970s. These were not ordinary cars, they were ultra-exclusive luxury vehicles, hand-built in Italy. Elvis was the very first person to ever buy a Stutz Blackhawk in 1970, and he loved them so much he bought several more, including this 1972 Pearl White model. This car, captured here, was delivered to his Los Angeles home in 1973. With its flashy gold-plated trim and powerful engine, the Stutz was the perfect car for Elvis's larger-than-life personality. Of all his roles, one meant the most to Elvis: being a father. This photo captures that profound new identity. When Lisa Marie was born in 1968, it fundamentally changed him. Elvis himself said, "Becoming a father made me realize a great deal more about life." He recalled the moment he first held her, saying, "I know all babies are beautiful, but she was special. I guess because I realized she was mine to care for." It was no longer just about him or Priscilla. He said, it was us. This new sense of responsibility deeply affected him, and he adored his daughter. Can you imagine a superstar today doing this? This wasn't a staged photo op, it was a regular ritual. When Elvis was home at Graceland, especially around 1970, he would often walk or ride his motorcycle down the long driveway to the main gates. He would spend hours talking with fans who had gathered, signing autographs and accepting their letters and gifts. It was an incredibly personal and direct connection he maintained with his admirers, long after he became the most famous man on the planet. This image captures that unique accessibility, showing a global icon taking time to greet the people who supported him. This photo is from one of Elvis's final tours. On November 30th, 1976, Elvis took the stage at the Anaheim Convention Center in California. This was part of his last ever West Coast tour, less than a year before his passing. Despite his failing health during this period, his star power was undiminished. He performed for a sold-out crowd of nearly 9,000 fans, wearing his King of Spades jumpsuit. Reviews from this specific night noted he was in surprisingly good humor and gave a strong performance, commanding the stage as only he could. It's a powerful look at the king performing for his fans. This stage was his kingdom, but this was the end of an era. This image captures Elvis during his final engagement in Las Vegas at the Hilton Hotel in December 1976. He had revolutionized the city, creating the modern residency and breaking attendance records season after season since 1969. This specific show, on December 6th, was part of a 10-day run that would be his last. While he was visibly tired and not in the same physical shape as his 1969 comeback, the crowd still flocked to see him. This photo captures a moment from the king's farewell to the city he had conquered. What was it like to see Elvis in Vegas in his final year? This photo from December 5, 1976, is from the same final run at the Las Vegas Hilton. By this point, the king's performances were unpredictable. Some nights he was energetic and joking, and other nights he seemed tired. But he was always Elvis. During this engagement, he was supported by his new girlfriend, Ginger Alden, and his father, Vernon. Even his young daughter, Lisa Marie, was in town to see her father perform. For the thousands who packed the showroom, it was a chance to be in the presence of a legend. Before the famous Jungle Room, there was this. Welcome to the Graceland living room, pictured here in 1963. This is the elegant and sophisticated look from the early 1960s, a design heavily influenced by Priscilla. Notice the striking 15-foot-long white sofa and the long flowing white curtains that frame the entrance to the music room. The room was accented with blues and golds, reflecting a more traditional style before the bold, custom-made furniture of the 1970s took over. This photo offers a rare glimpse into the private world of Elvis during his post-Army, pre-Beatlemania peak, a home that was both a sanctuary and a statement. Elvis Presley used his power for more than just music. In 1970, Elvis was booked to play the massive Houston Astrodome. According to Myrna Smith of his backup group, The Sweet Inspirations, promoters asked Elvis to leave his black girls at home. Elvis's response was immediate: "If my girls don't come, I don't come." He refused to perform without his complete musical family. He won. When it came time for the show, Elvis rode around the arena in a Jeep to greet the massive crowd. He made sure the Sweet Inspirations had their own Jeep right alongside him, ensuring they were seen. How did one of Elvis's most iconic songs get its name? It all started with a simple, untrue rumor. In the mid-50s, word somehow got out that Elvis Presley loved to collect teddy bears. While he never actually collected them, his devoted fans took the rumor as gospel. Soon, Graceland was flooded with thousands of stuffed bears sent from all over the world. The media frenzy around this phenomenon caught the attention of songwriters Cal Mad and Bernie Lowe. They quickly penned a song to capitalize on the craze. The track was "Let Me Be Your Teddy Bear." It was placed in his second movie, 1957's Loving You, and became a massive #1 hit. The song was so popular, it topped the pop, R&B, and country charts simultaneously, forever linking the king to the furry toy. This wasn't just another Elvis movie. This was his bid for a serious acting career. Released in 1960, Flaming Star was a dramatic western that marked a significant departure from his previous musical comedies. Elvis played the challenging role of Pacer Burton, a young man caught between two worlds, with a white father and a Kiowa mother. The role, which was rumored to have been considered for Marlon Brando, forced Elvis to stretch his acting muscles. The film tackled mature themes of racism and family conflict. Unlike his other movies, this one featured very little music. Elvis sang the title track over the opening credits and one other brief song, a move that pleased critics who praised his dramatic performance, even if it puzzled some fans who missed the rock and roll. It's hard to believe, but by 1972, Elvis Presley had never performed a live concert in New York City. This image captures the historic moment he conquered the Big Apple. This show, on June 11th, was the last of 4 completely sold-out performances at Madison Square Garden. He was the first entertainer to ever sell out 4 consecutive shows at the legendary venue. Wearing his Blue Owl jumpsuit, Elvis put on a powerhouse performance for over 20,000 fans. The critical reception was ecstatic, with reviewers declaring that the king had reclaimed his crown. The demand was so high that RCA recorded the shows and rushed out a live album, Elvis as Recorded at Madison Square Garden, which hit record stores just days later. Before Graceland, there was this. In 1949, the Presley family moved into apartment 328 at Lauderdale Courts in Memphis. This was a public housing project, and this three-room apartment was a significant step up for them. They lived here until 1953, during Elvis's crucial formative years from age 14 to 18. It was here that he began to stand out. As this photo with his friend Farley Guy shows, Elvis was already different. He famously oiled his hair and wore flashy clothes like black satin pants, standing out from his peers. He and Farley would earn money mowing lawns for neighbors. This is also where Elvis practiced his guitar in the laundry rooms, blending the sounds of blues, gospel, and country. The building was saved from demolition and is now a historic landmark. Look closely at this candid photo from the 1969 film of Charo. Notice anything different? For this role, Elvis grew a beard, a look he rarely adopted. But the biggest change wasn't his appearance, it was the sound. This film marked a unique moment in his entire Hollywood career. Charo is the only movie Elvis ever made where his character does not sing a single song on screen. It was a deliberate attempt to break away from his musical comedy formula and be taken seriously as a dramatic actor. He played a gritty, reformed outlaw in what was essentially an American-made spaghetti western. While the title track plays over the opening credits, this film was all about the drama, giving audiences a rare glimpse of Elvis in a purely acting role. Elvis Presley had a lifelong passion that went far beyond music: combat sports. This January 1973 photo shows him with Memphis boxer Joey Hadley, and it speaks volumes about his interests. Elvis was an accomplished martial artist himself, eventually earning a high-level black belt in karate. But he was also an avid fan of boxing, deeply respecting the discipline, grit, and mental toughness of fighters. He followed the careers of many boxers, including Hadley, a local light heavyweight. Elvis often invited fighters to his home or attended their matches. This image isn't just a simple celebrity meet and greet, it's a genuine moment of mutual respect, capturing the king of rock and roll connecting with an athlete from a world he deeply admired and understood. While the world saw the flashy jumpsuits, the private Elvis was often found just like this, reading. This photo, taken at his Audubon Drive home with his parents, captures a side of him few knew. Elvis was a voracious and deeply spiritual reader. He wasn't just scanning magazines about himself, he was on a lifelong quest for answers. His personal library was filled with hundreds of books on religion, philosophy, and spiritualism, from the Tao Te Ching to the Prophet. His most cherished book was reportedly The Impersonal Life, a text he carried with him for years. He heavily annotated his books, underlining passages and writing his own thoughts in the margins. This image is a reminder that behind the superstar persona was a complex, intelligent, and deeply curious man seeking self-discovery. This 1971 photo with country legend Dottie West hides a truly sweet, private family moment. Elvis had just watched Dottie and Jimmy Dean perform in Las Vegas and invited them to his suite afterward. Dottie West, the first woman in country music to win a Grammy, later recalled the highlight of the night. Elvis had Priscilla bring their daughter, Lisa Marie, over to meet them. Dottie remembered little Lisa flying into the room saying, "Daddy, I've brought you a surprise." She fumbled with her little purse and proudly gave Elvis a piece of bubble gum, saying, "Your favorite, Daddy." It was a tender, unguarded glimpse of Elvis as a father. It also showed his deep respect for other artists, especially from the country music world he loved. How generous was Elvis Presley? He once gave away this solid 22-karat gold ring while riding a roller coaster. This stunning piece features a massive 18.5mm black sapphire and ornate fleur-de-lis details. It belonged to Elvis's friend and bodyguard, Sam Thompson. The story of how he got it is pure Elvis. On August 7, 1977, just days before his passing, Elvis rented out the Libertyland amusement park in Memphis for his daughter Lisa Marie. While on the wooden roller coaster, Elvis handed the ring to Sam, asking him to hold it so he wouldn't lose it. Later, when Sam tried to return the ring, Elvis simply smiled and told him, "You keep it." That impromptu gift, a token of friendship, sold at auction in 2022 for $35,000. This photo shows Elvis with his beloved chow, Get Low, and the story behind this dog reveals Elvis's incredible capacity for love. According to Linda Thompson, Get Low was their sweetheart, but sadly had a kidney ailment. One night, around 3 in the morning, the dog became very ill. A doctor warned that Get Low might not make it through the night. Elvis refused to give up. He immediately leased a private Learjet and flew Get Low, Linda, and a doctor from Memphis to a specialized veterinary clinic in Boston for dialysis. They left the dog there for 3 months for treatment. Tragically, Get Low eventually passed away. Elvis was on tour when he got the news, and Linda recalled that when they were told, Elvis just broke down and cried. Elvis bought this stunning yellow 1971 De Tomaso Pantera, a sleek Italian sports car with a powerful Ford engine, as a gift for his girlfriend Linda Thompson. But it was also the car he used for a terrifying prank. Another girlfriend, Sheila Ryan, shared a memory of a late-night drive in this very car. She was already nervous because Elvis rarely drove himself. While speeding down the interstate in the dark, Elvis suddenly screamed, "Here, take the wheel!" and threw his hands out the window. Sheila was petrified, but she said it was a rare glimpse of a different side of him, completely carefree, not at work, and just cutting loose. She was incredibly relieved when she finally saw the musical gates of Graceland, safe and sound. Was Elvis Presley's biggest rival also one of his friends? In the 1950s, no two stars were bigger than Elvis and Pat Boone. They were direct competitors on the radio, matching each other hit for hit. But according to Boone, their rivalry was completely friendly. They were both fellow Tennesseans who had moved to Hollywood. They made movies at the same studio, 20th Century Fox, often visiting each other's dressing rooms. They even became neighbors in Bel Air and visited each other's homes. Their careers were famously intertwined. Boone, for example, had a massive hit with a cover of "Ain't That a Shame," a song by black artist Fats Domino. This move sparked national discussions about race and pop music, a conversation that also frequently included Elvis. In 1958, the biggest star on Earth became a regular soldier. This incredible photo captures Private Elvis Presley at Fort Hood, Texas, just before his deployment to Germany. After being drafted and completing basic training, Elvis was assigned to the 1st Medium Tank Battalion, 32nd Armor, as part of the 3rd Armored Division. This image shows him looking every bit the soldier, a world away from the gold lame suits and screaming fans. It was a moment of profound uncertainty. Elvis was leaving America for 18 months at the absolute peak of his career, genuinely fearing that his audience would forget him by the time he returned. This photo isn't just of a soldier, it's of a global phenomenon facing an unknown future. This might be one of the most accidental and luckiest photos ever taken of Elvis Presley. The year was 1947 in Memphis, Tennessee. A woman was walking into a drugstore to get her camera film developed when she realized she had one single exposure left on the roll. She didn't want to waste it. She looked outside and saw a young 12-year-old boy standing with his bicycle. Thinking it would make a nice snapshot, she asked him to pose so she could finish the roll. She took the picture and thought nothing of it. It was only years later, after that same boy had become the most famous face on the planet, that she realized she had captured an incredible, candid portrait of a pre-fame Elvis Presley. This is the moment Elvis Presley said goodbye to America. On September 22, 1958, Private Presley was at the Brooklyn Army Terminal in New York City. He was about to board the troop ship USS General Randall, bound for Bremerhaven, Germany. A crowd of fans and press had gathered to see him off. In this classic photo, Elvis leans over the railing to give a farewell kiss to a lucky fan named Lillian Portnoy. After completing his training at Fort Hood, he was heading to Germany to serve with the 3rd Armored Division, where he would be an intelligence specialist. This goodbye kiss symbolized the end of the first chapter of his career, as he left his kingdom of rock and roll behind for the duties of a regular soldier. This photo captures a rare, happy moment from Elvis's final vacation. In March 1977, just 5 months before his passing, Elvis and his entourage, including his girlfriend Ginger Alden, flew to Hawaii. After a brief stay at the Hilton Rainbow Tower, he moved to a private beach house in Kailua on the island of Oahu. For many who saw him, this trip seemed to be a positive turn. He looked relaxed, happier, and in better shape than he had in months. As this photo proves, he even wore jeans, debunking the myth that he never wore them. He spent his time relaxing on the beach and playing with his friends. It's a bittersweet image, showing the king enjoying a moment of peace, unaware it would be his last holiday. Every king has a strong woman behind him. For Elvis, it was his grandmother, Minnie Mae, known to the family as Dodger. She lived at Graceland and was a beloved, quirky, and grounding presence. Lisa Marie remembered her watching Hee Haw and dipping into her snuff. Patsy Presley recalled finding her false teeth all over the house because she refused to wear them, and that despite her claims of being hard of hearing, she could hear a whisper from across the house. Priscilla described her as a pillar of strength, a comfort, and very wise. When Elvis was on tour, Priscilla would often sleep in Dodger's room, drawing strength from her. Elvis absolutely adored her, and she adored him. She was the tough, wise matriarch of Graceland. The most famous jumpsuit in history was almost worn incomplete for its biggest show. This is from January 1973, right before the Aloha from Hawaii satellite broadcast. Designer Bill Ballou had created the iconic American Eagle jumpsuit and cape for this global event. However, on the night before the show, Elvis, in a typical act of spontaneous generosity, gave the multi-$1,000 gem-encrusted belt to the wife of his friend Jack Lord, the star of Hawaii Five-0. His road manager, Joe Esposito, was stunned. He made a frantic last-minute call to Ballou in Los Angeles, who thankfully had a second identical belt made. That replacement was immediately flown to Hawaii, arriving just in time for Elvis to walk on stage and make television history. This single photo captures the past, present, and future of Memphis music. Taken by famed photographer Ernest Withers on December 7, 1956, it shows a 21-year-old Elvis Presley backstage with singer Claudia Ivy and the legendary B.B. King. The event was the WDIA Goodwill Review in Memphis. WDIA was a trailblazing station, the first in America programmed entirely by and for African Americans. This photo is historic because it shows Elvis, already a superstar, returning to his roots and paying respect to the black music community that shaped him. Both he and B.B. King had cut their teeth performing on the tough amateur nights on Beale Street. This image is a powerful symbol of the shared musical heritage of Memphis. When Elvis Presley came to town in 1972, his arrival was bigger than a presidential visit. This photo captures the scene on April 8th as Elvis landed in Knoxville, Tennessee for a concert. He descended from his Learjet into the cold wind, followed by his father, Vernon. A local reporter, Jan Maxwell, described his outfit: a wine-colored suede leather suit with a knee-length coat. What truly stunned the press was the security. An article the next day noted that the security was tighter for Elvis than for any presidents, kings, or other officials who have visited Knoxville in recent years. Fans were held back by a heavy guard, unable to get close. This moment perfectly illustrates the level of fame Elvis had achieved, a phenomenon that required security on a scale reserved for world leaders. This photo captures Elvis on a day that would cement his superstardom, but also mark one of his greatest frustrations. It's January 6, 1957, at the Warwick Hotel in New York City. Elvis is just hours away from his third and final appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show. This appearance became legendary, but not just for the music. After Elvis's controversial performance on The Milton Berle Show, where his swiveling hips caused a national uproar, Ed Sullivan was taking no chances. He infamously ordered his cameramen to film Elvis only from the waist up. Despite the censorship, Elvis's performance was electric. At the end of the show, Sullivan himself came out, calling Elvis a real decent fine boy, a complete reversal that helped solidify his image for mainstream America. What happens when a superstar in the making tries to be himself? This photo by Alfred Wertheimer captures that exact moment. It's July 4th, 1956, at the Chattanooga train station. Elvis, just 21, is traveling home to Memphis. While waiting, Elvis spotted a movie magazine, found his own picture inside, and borrowed Wertheimer's pen to sign it. He walked over to the girl at the counter and presented it to her. As Wertheimer snapped this shot, Elvis looked back at him with a huge Cheshire Cat grin. The girl, unimpressed, simply said, "That'll be 35 cents, sir." Elvis laughed and explained who he was, and she finally accepted the gift. Wertheimer noted that Elvis wanted this moment captured. He knew, even then, that these ordinary moments were about to disappear forever. The story behind the Aloha from Hawaii jumpsuit is almost as legendary as the concert itself. This image is from the January 12, 1973 rehearsal show. Designer Bill Belew actually created two identical American Eagle jumpsuits for these performances. The original cape was a massive floor-length piece. During rehearsals, it was clear it was far too heavy and cumbersome for Elvis to move in. A lighter, shorter cape was quickly created for the main broadcast. Then came the belt crisis. The night before the show, Elvis spontaneously gave the original gem-encrusted belt to Jack Lord's wife. A frantic call was made, and an identical replacement was flown in from Los Angeles. Incredibly, during the main satellite show, Elvis gave that belt and the new cape away to fans. It's one of the most astonishing facts about Elvis Presley. His raw talent was almost entirely untrained. While he had the world's most recognizable voice, Elvis never had a single formal voice lesson. He couldn't read music. He learned to play guitar by ear, picking up chords from friends and listening to blues and country records in Tupelo. The same was true for the piano. He played it instinctively, finding melodies and gospel-style chords on his own. Even his stage presence and acting were purely intuitive. He was a natural entertainer who absorbed everything around him, from the energy of gospel revivals to the swagger of bluesmen on Beale Street. He synthesized all these influences into a unique style, becoming a force of nature who changed music forever, not through formal training, but through sheer instinct. During the peak of his comeback, Elvis lived a complex private life. A key person in that life was Joyce Bova. Bova, who worked on Capitol Hill for the House Armed Services Committee, met Elvis in Las Vegas in 1969. For the next few years, they maintained a serious, though often long-distance, relationship. Bova noted that her striking resemblance to Priscilla often caused people to mistake her for Elvis's wife. Their connection was significant. When Elvis famously flew to Washington, D.C. in December 1970 to meet President Nixon, it was Joyce he called first upon landing. She was a frequent guest at Graceland, but her relationship with Elvis was complicated by his marriage. Bova eventually ended things, and by the time Elvis and Priscilla finalized their divorce, Linda Thompson had become the new primary woman in his life. Many fans who got to meet Elvis had to reconcile two different people, the public idol and the private man. Fan Sandy Miller perfectly described this. Her initial image of Elvis was one of near perfection. She saw him as a religious family man who didn't smoke, drink, or cuss. But as she got to know him, that pedestal crumbled, in a good way. She was stunned to find that he did smoke, he did cuss, and he had a real temper. Miller said this realization made her like him even more. It shattered the myth and revealed the man. This was a common experience for those in his inner circle. They had to get used to the human Elvis, who was funny, irreverent, and flawed, existing alongside the polite, Southern gentleman image he projected. Imagine walking into your morning shift as a waitress and serving the most famous man alive. That's what happened to Aileen Landrum on September 12, 1957. She was working at the Little Shamrock Cafe in Cleveland when a black Cadillac pulled up. In walked Elvis and his band, traveling between concert dates. Aileen had the honor of serving the king his breakfast, and what a breakfast it was. She recalled he ordered a bit of everything: eggs, bacon, cheese, pancakes, a piece of chocolate cake, coffee, and a Pepsi. This famous photo, which Aileen treasured her whole life, captures this incredible encounter. It's a wonderful, candid snapshot of Elvis on the road during his whirlwind 1957 tour, a global superstar stopping for a simple, hearty meal at a local diner. This woman, Marian Keisker, is arguably one of the most important people in music history. Without her, there might be no Elvis Presley. She was Sam Phillips's indispensable partner at Sun Records. As she put it, she wasn't just a secretary, she was the office manager, assistant engineer, and general Jane of all trades, who helped lay the tile and paint the walls of the studio. But her greatest contribution came in July 1953. Sam Phillips was out, and Marian was running the office alone. An 18-year-old Elvis Presley walked in, wanting to pay to record a song. She was the one who operated the controls and recorded his first ever acetate, My Happiness. Struck by his unique voice, she famously kept a note on him for Phillips. Good ballad singer, hold. This is one of the greatest lost car stories of all time. This is Elvis's legendary BMW 507. He acquired the stunning sports car in 1958 while he was a soldier in Germany. It was originally white, but Elvis famously had it painted red. Why? Because female fans kept covering the white paint with their phone numbers, written in lipstick. After his army service, the car was sold, raced, modified, and eventually it just vanished for nearly half a century. It was finally rediscovered in 2014, in dreadful condition, stored in a pumpkin warehouse near San Francisco. A collector had owned it for decades, unaware of its royal pedigree. BMW Group Classic acquired the car and spent 2 years on a massive nut and bolt restoration, returning it to its original, glorious white. This small meeting with Denver police in November 1970 set off one of the strangest and most famous chapters in Elvis's life. While in Denver for a concert, Elvis, a known police enthusiast, was chatting with the off-duty officers assigned to protect him. He proudly showed them his personal collection of honorary police badges. Elvis desperately wanted a real badge from them, not just another souvenir. When the officers could only provide him with another honorary one, he was deeply disappointed. This single event set him on a mission. Frustrated, Elvis decided he would go to the very top. Just a few weeks later in December, he spontaneously flew to Washington, D.C. to petition President Richard Nixon himself. His goal? To be made a federal agent at large. It's arguably the most famous room in Graceland, but Elvis never called it the Jungle Room. To him, it was just the den. This exotic space, with its indoor waterfall and iconic green shag carpet on both the floor and ceiling, was created in 1974. Elvis saw the Polynesian-style furniture at a local Memphis store and reportedly bought the entire set in 30 minutes. By 1976, Elvis was reluctant to travel to a formal studio, so RCA brought the studio to him. They ran cables into the den, turning it into an impromptu recording space. In 2 sessions, Elvis sat in this room and recorded his final studio masters. These sessions produced the entire From Elvis Presley Boulevard album, as well as his last major hit, Moody Blue. Elvis's connection to his fans was legendary, and this photo captures a moment of conflict over it. This is August 1970, outside Elvis's Hillcrest home in Los Angeles. The fan is Doris Caniff. She isn't just posing, she's actually holding one of Elvis's most iconic stage costumes, the long fringe suit, as it was being taken to the dry cleaners. According to witnesses, one of Elvis's entourage told Doris to get away from Elvis. The look on Elvis's face in this photo seems to show his displeasure with that. He famously insisted that his fans always be treated with respect. This specific jumpsuit became famous just a few months later at a concert in November. Elvis got so tangled in the long fringes and his microphone cord that an assistant had to run on stage with scissors to cut him loose. This photo captures the aftermath of one of the most infamous and humiliating moments of Elvis's early career. It's July 1, 1956, and Elvis is performing on The Steve Allen Show. Just weeks earlier, his hip-swiveling performance on The Milton Berle Show had caused a national scandal. Steve Allen, wanting to clean up his image, forced Elvis into a ridiculous stunt. He made him dress in a full tuxedo and sing his raw, bluesy hit Hound Dog to a bored basset hound named Sherlock, who was sitting on a pedestal. Elvis was a good sport, but he was privately furious, feeling that Allen had mocked him and his music. This photo, taken by Alfred Wertheimer after the segment, shows Elvis signing autographs, but the event itself was a low point he never forgot. This wasn't just another concert announcement, this was the press conference for a global first. On November 20, 1972, Elvis held his press conference at the Hawaiian Village Hotel to announce the Aloha from Hawaii concert. This was planned as the first ever live concert to be broadcast worldwide via satellite. The event took on a deeper meaning thanks to Honolulu columnist Eddie Sherman. He suggested that instead of charging for tickets, the show should be a benefit concert. The chosen charity was the Kui Lee Cancer Fund. Kui Lee was a celebrated Hawaiian songwriter who had passed away from cancer. Elvis had recorded Lee's beautiful song, I'll Remember You, making the cause a personal one. Elvis kicked off the fundraising himself with a check for $1,000. It's one of the biggest debates among Elvis fans. When was the king truly at his peak? Many argue his best work was in the 50s and early 60s. This era represents the raw, revolutionary Elvis. His voice was flexible, able to move from rockabilly to gospel to ballads with incredible energy. He was seen as more authentic and spontaneous in films like Jailhouse Rock. Others argue his peak was the 1970s. While his voice may have been less flexible, it gained tremendous power, depth, and operatic richness. His comeback and the Vegas-era performances with a full orchestra showcased a mature, commanding artist. While fans debate whether the young, rebellious king of rock and roll was better than the powerful, jumpsuit-clad king of Vegas, both eras showcase his unparalleled, evolving talent. Being the most famous man in the world came with serious downsides, including false legal claims. In August 1970, a waitress named Patricia Parker filed a paternity suit against Elvis. She claimed he was the father of her child and demanded support. Her only proof was a single photograph of her and Elvis posing together backstage, a common occurrence for him. The judge ordered blood tests to settle the matter. This required Elvis, Parker, and the baby to be present. To get the sample, a doctor had to take blood from the baby's heel, causing the child to cry out. Witnesses reported that Elvis became visibly angry, not at the situation, but at Parker for what he felt was putting her child through an upsetting procedure for a false claim. The blood tests were conclusive. Elvis was not the father. This photo captures a truly powerful musical meeting. This is Elvis Presley with the Queen of Gospel, Mahalia Jackson. The picture was taken on the set of Elvis's 1969 film, Change of Habit. Elvis, a lifelong devotee of gospel music, had personally requested that Jackson appear in the movie. While not a main cast member, she has one of the film's most memorable moments. She performs a powerful, stirring rendition of the gospel standard, Have a Little Talk with Jesus, during a church scene. For Elvis, this was more than a celebrity cameo. It was a chance to work with one of his personal heroes, an artist whose music had profoundly influenced him since his childhood in Tupelo. You can see the deep respect and admiration he has for her in this image. This 1968 film, Stay Away Joe, represents the peak of Elvis's late 60s musical comedy formula, and not necessarily in a good way. Elvis stars as Joe Lightcloud, a Navajo rodeo rider who returns to his family's reservation. The film is a light-hearted, slapstick western based on a popular novel. The movie revolves around Joe's comedic and often chaotic attempts to help his family while also getting into various romantic entanglements. The film received very mixed reviews. Critics and even many fans felt the script was weak and its portrayal of Native American culture was broad and stereotypical. While it features a few songs, Stay Away Joe is remembered today as one of the low points in his movie career, a prime example of the films he was desperate to stop making. In 1957, Elvis Presley was 22 years old and the most famous person in the world. He needed a sanctuary. On March 19, 1957, he found it. He purchased this mansion, known as Graceland, and its 13.8-acre estate for just over $100,000. It immediately became the center of his universe. He moved his parents, Vernon and Gladys, and his grandmother, Minnie Mae, into the home with him. Graceland was more than a house. It was his fortress against the pressures of fame. It was where he could be himself, hosting friends, playing music all night, and creating a private world. While he was buying it as a home, he was inadvertently creating one of the most famous and recognizable residences in American history, a place that would become a symbol of his legacy. Long before the Memphis Mafia, Elvis had his original childhood crew. This photo shows a young Elvis with his close friends from the Lauderdale Courts housing project, Farley Guy and Evan Buzzy Forbes. This wasn't a superstar with fans, this was just a group of neighborhood kids. Farley Guy, in particular, was one of Elvis's earliest friends in Memphis. As teenagers, they did everything together, from mowing lawns for pocket money to listening to music. Their bond was so strong that they both ended up getting drafted into the U.S. Army around the same time. While Elvis's path would lead to global fame, photos like this are a priceless look back at his humble beginnings. It's a reminder that before he was the king, he was just a kid from the neighborhood hanging out with his best friends. Don't let the wavy hair fool you. This photo is often misdated. While he looks like the 1955 hillbilly cat, this is actually Elvis in 1961. This look was from the period he filmed two of his most popular movies back-to-back, Follow That Dream and Kid Galahad. Both were released in 1962. Kid Galahad cast him as a boxer alongside a young Charles Bronson, but Follow That Dream was a fan favorite. Elvis played the charming, folksy Toby Quimper, whose family decides to homestead a stretch of Florida beach. This candid shot captures a relaxed Elvis on location, likely in Florida, where much of Follow That Dream was filmed. It's a great snapshot of his early Hollywood era, just before the movie formulas became all too repetitive. This photo marks the end of an era for Elvis Presley. This is Elvis on the set of Change of Habit, his 31st and final narrative feature film. Released in 1969, the movie was a major departure, co-starring Mary Tyler Moore and tackling serious social issues. Elvis played Dr. John Carpenter, a doctor working in a low-income clinic. In this candid shot, he poses with an employee at Glassman's Market, a real Hollywood store used for location filming. After this movie, Elvis turned his back on Hollywood scripts for good. He was already deep into his explosive 1969 Las Vegas comeback. This photo is a unique snapshot of a global superstar, just about to close one major chapter of his life and begin his triumphant return to the stage. Meet the woman whose soaring soprano voice became a signature part of Elvis's 1970s concerts. This is Kathy Westmoreland, an American singer who joined Elvis's stage show in 1970. She wasn't just a backup singer. Her operatic, high-register vocals were often showcased in a solo spot, and she sang duets with Elvis, most notably a live version of I Will Be True. She became a key part of his sound, standing alongside the Sweet Inspirations and J.D. Sumner and the Stamps Quartet. Their relationship was close, and she was a constant presence on tour, sharing inside jokes and a deep musical connection with him right up until his final concert in 1977. This photo captures the easygoing camaraderie between the king and one of his most trusted vocalists. Even getting a haircut was a media event for Elvis in 1956. This famous series of photos was taken by journalist Lloyd Shearer in the last week of July 1956 at Jim's Barbershop in downtown Memphis. Elvis, seen here reading a magazine that is ironically about himself, is getting a simple trim. The moment perfectly captures the explosion of his fame. Years later, one of the barbers recalled that the day was pure chaos. He said he couldn't even sweep the floor because as soon as Elvis left, dozens of teenagers rushed into the shop, grabbing handfuls of Elvis's hair clippings off the floor as souvenirs. It's a small detail that illustrates the absolute hysteria that surrounded him. The barbershop itself was eventually demolished, but these photos preserve the memory of this surreal day. This story, told by Elvis's friend Larry Geller, perfectly defines Elvis's spontaneous generosity. One afternoon in 1965 at his Bel Air home, Elvis told his inner circle he had a surprise. A truck arrived and unloaded 12 brand new Harley-Davidson motorcycles. Elvis told the guys to pick out the one you wanted. After everyone had chosen, one bike was left over. A crowd of fans was at the gate, including a teenage boy who was just staring at the bikes. Elvis walked over and asked the boy if he had a bike. The boy said no. Elvis laughed, put his arm around him and said, "You do now." The kid was frozen in shock. As the boy revved up his new Harley, Elvis told Geller, "When I saw that look, I just had to give him one." Look closely at the raw energy in this photograph. This is the moment the explosion was happening. This incredible image captures Elvis Presley on May 8, 1955, outside the Fort Homer W. Hesterly Armory in Tampa, Florida. This was just before he became a national sensation. At this point, he was still touring relentlessly with the Hillbilly Cat image signed to Sun Records. The Tampa Armory show was a pivotal one. The crowd was so wild and uncontrollable that police had to be called in to stop fans from ripping Elvis's clothes off. Local papers were scandalized by his movements, but the audience response was ecstatic. This photo, with Elvis looking like a coiled spring of energy, perfectly captures the primal rock and roll force that was about to change the world. Before he was the king, he was playing high school auditoriums in armories. This rare snapshot is from July 30, 1955, at the Peabody Auditorium in Daytona Beach, Florida. This was part of a relentless touring schedule organized by Colonel Tom Parker, who was still just his special advisor at this point. Elvis was the closing act on a bill that included other country and hillbilly artists. He performed 2 shows that day, a matinee and an evening performance. This was pure, unadulterated 1955 Elvis. He was still signed to Sun Records, and his first RCA single was months away. He was on stage with just his guitar, Bill Black on bass, and Scotty Moore on electric guitar, laying down the foundation of rock and roll, one small Florida city at a time. What a difference a single year makes! Just 1 year after he played a local auditorium in Daytona Beach, Elvis returned on August 9, 1956, as the biggest celebrity on the planet. This time, he wasn't in a small venue. He was at the much larger Daytona Beach City Island ballpark. He was now an RCA Victor artist with Heartbreak Hotel and Hound Dog ruling the charts. He was a movie star, and his every move created a national controversy. This 1956 show was met with a level of hysteria that was completely new. He performed on a stage set up on the baseball field, and this photo captures that intense, electrifying moment. This was no longer just a concert, it was an event, solidifying his absolute domination of American popular culture. This photo captures Elvis's triumphant farewell to the stage that launched him. This is from backstage at the Louisiana Hayride in Shreveport on December 15, 1956. The Hayride was the crucial radio show that gave him his first major platform outside of Memphis back in 1954. By this date, in late 1956, he was the biggest star in the world and had long outgrown the regional show. This performance was his official final appearance, fulfilling his contract. It was a massive event, with over 10,000 fans packing the outdoor stage at the Shreveport Fairgrounds. Dressed in a new, custom-made gold lame jacket, Elvis gave a wild farewell performance, symbolizing his graduation from a regional country act to an undisputed international king. This wasn't a movie set. This was Elvis reclaiming his history. This photo, taken with a fan in Honolulu in 1968, captures a very significant trip. In May 1968, Elvis traveled to Hawaii to film his iconic television special, which would later be known as the '68 Comeback. However, his visit was cut short when Colonel Parker used a likely false threat as an excuse to pull Elvis from location filming. This photo is from November 1968, when Elvis returned to Hawaii with Priscilla. He was there to film the remaining sequences needed for the special's spectacular opening number, including the famous scenes of him running on the beach and performing by the ocean. It was a crucial part of creating the special that would relaunch his career. How did the mainstream press react to Elvis in 1956? This photo tells part of the story. This image captures an exhausted 21-year-old Elvis Presley on May 13, 1956. He had just finished a chaotic matinee performance at the St. Paul Auditorium in Minnesota and was resting before his evening show. A local newspaper critic, Will Jones, was sent to review the show. His column the next day was surprisingly objective for the time. He didn't just focus on the controversy. He observed Elvis's natural, easy, confident command and noted that the singer seemed genuinely grateful for the applause. Jones described the sound of the fans' reaction not as a scream, but as one continuous, deafening shriek. This photo shows the physical toll of that hysteria, the calm eye of the storm. You might know her as Whitney Houston's mother, but to Elvis, she was a vital part of his sound. This is the legendary Cissy Houston, pictured with Elvis in 1969. Cissy was a founding member of the Sweet Inspirations, the acclaimed gospel and soul group that Elvis personally recruited to be his female backing vocalists when he returned to the stage. She, along with the other Sweets, was instrumental in shaping his live sound in Las Vegas. Her powerful, soulful voice provided the essential gospel foundation for his rock and R&B numbers. Cissy toured and recorded with Elvis during his triumphant 1969 comeback and into 1970, before leaving to pursue her solo career. This photo captures her essential time with the King. Even in 1958, Elvis's fame was truly international. This photo captures a special visit to the set of his 1958 film, King Creole. While filming what many consider to be his greatest acting role, Elvis received a delegation of prominent Japanese actresses. Among them was Hideko Takamine, a massive star in Japan, often compared to Bette Davis. The visit was arranged by the studio to generate international publicity for the film. It's a fascinating snapshot of cultural exchange. Elvis, ever the polite Southern gentleman, can be seen charming the visitors, who were eager to meet America's biggest cultural export. King Creole would be his last film for 2 years, and this visit shows the global scale his fame had reached before he ever left the country. Fans have debated this photo for years. Is this 1972 or 1973? This candid shot of Elvis in Hawaii is a famous puzzle. For a long time, it was believed to be from May 1972, when Elvis took a vacation, possibly to get a tan before his huge Madison Square Garden concerts. However, a different story has emerged. The woman who allegedly took the photo claims it's actually from January 1973. She said she went to Hawaii specifically to see Elvis just before he filmed the Aloha from Hawaii satellite special. The photo supposedly lay in a drawer for decades. Both theories are plausible. He looks fit, as he was for both major events. It remains a fascinating, candid glimpse of Elvis and his beloved islands. This is the day rock and roll history was made, in just 7 hours. On July 2, 1956, fresh off his humiliating performance on The Steve Allen Show, Elvis walked into RCA's New York studio with a point to prove. Over the next 7 hours, he channeled his frustration into his music. He recorded the ballad, "Any Way You Want Me." Then he turned to "Don't Be Cruel," perfecting it in 28 takes. Finally, he tackled "Hound Dog," the song he'd been forced to sing to a dog. He was determined to record a definitive, blistering version. These photos by Alfred Wertheimer capture the intense focus. After 31 takes, he had it. RCA released "Hound Dog" and "Don't Be Cruel" as a double A-side single. It became his most successful ever, staying at #1 for 11 weeks. Can you spot the music legend in this crowd? This photo from June 3, 1955 in Lubbock, Texas is historic. A 19-year-old Elvis Presley is surrounded by eager fans. But look closely at the upper right. That's a teenage Buddy Holly with his friend Bob Montgomery. Just a few months earlier, Buddy and Bob had actually opened for Elvis at this same venue. That February 1955 show had a profound, life-changing impact on Holly. He was, at the time, a local country artist. But seeing Elvis's explosive, charismatic rock and roll performance inspired Holly to completely change his own musical direction. In this photo, he's just another fan in the crowd. Within 2 years, he would be a global rock and roll pioneer in his own right. Imagine being in your early morning class when Elvis Presley casually walks in. This photo of Ed Parker's Kempo Karate Dojo in Pasadena is tied to a fantastic story. Ed Parker, Elvis's longtime martial arts instructor and friend, was with Elvis in California in the early 70s. It was around 5:30 in the morning, and Elvis was bored. Ed suggested they drop in on his son's 6 a.m. seminary class nearby. So they did. The students were completely stunned as Elvis Presley, unannounced, walked in and sat down. According to the story, Elvis loved the lesson and stayed for the whole class. This dojo was a sanctuary for Elvis, a place where he wasn't just a singer, but a dedicated student of a discipline he loved. This small, unassuming house tells a complex story about Elvis's childhood. In 1947, when Elvis was in the 7th grade, his family lived here at 101 Green Street in Tupelo, Mississippi. This wasn't the shotgun shack he was born in, it was a step up. But its location was significant. The house was located in a respectable, colored neighborhood, as historical records note, but the house itself was designated for whites only. Elvis's entire childhood in Tupelo was spent in poor, racially mixed neighborhoods. This proximity to the black community was profoundly influential. It was here he absorbed the sounds of blues and gospel music that were not available in white neighborhoods. This early exposure to African American culture was the primary ingredient in his unique musical blend. This is one of the rarest photos of Elvis in existence. It's his 1951 employee ID picture. Long before he was a singer, Elvis Presley was a high school student with an after-school job. In June 1951, the 16-year-old Elvis began working at Precision Tool Co. in Memphis. This photo, showing his profile, was taken for his company badge. His job was to operate a spindle press, earning $27 a week. He worked there for 3 months. After graduating in 1953, he briefly returned to the company, operating a drill press for $1.55 an hour before quitting to become a truck driver for Crown Electric. This image is a priceless glimpse into his life just before music took over, showing a working-class teenager completely unaware that his face would soon be the most famous on earth. This photo from the 1961 set of Blue Hawaii is a perfect illustration of a quote Elvis lived by. Surrounded by his young co-stars, this image captures the gentle side of the king. Blue Hawaii was a massive box office success, and this scene aligns perfectly with his personal philosophy. Elvis once said, "I ain't no saint, but I've tried never to do anything that would hurt my family or offend God." He continued, "I figure all any kid needs is hope and the feeling he or she belongs. If I could do or say anything that would give some kid that feeling, I would believe I had contributed something to the world." This belief was the driving force behind his massive, lifelong donations to children's charities and hospitals. This publicity shot captures the incredible star power of 1963's Fun in Acapulco. Elvis is flanked by two major international stars. On his right is Ursula Andress, who, just 1 year earlier, had become a global icon as the very first Bond girl, Honey Rider, in Dr. No. Her presence made this one of Elvis's highest-profile film pairings. On his left is the celebrated Mexican actress Elsa Cardenas. The film cast Elvis as a former trapeze artist working as a lifeguard in Acapulco. But here's the Hollywood magic. Despite the film's title and breathtaking location shots, Elvis never set foot in Acapulco for filming. All of his scenes were shot on a Paramount soundstage in Hollywood, using extensive rear projection. This photo is pure manufactured glamour. By December 1956, Elvis was a superstar, but he never forgot his community. This photo captures him in Memphis on December 12th, donating a massive pile of toys for a Marine Corps Toys for Tots drive, ensuring underprivileged children had gifts for Christmas. This was just one of his many lifelong, quiet charitable acts. Around this same time, his label RCA tried to capitalize on his image in a different way. They staged a photo shoot of Elvis at the Hungerford Furniture Store, surrounding him with RCA brand name equipment like stereos and televisions. The idea was to use the image of Elvis to sell these expensive home goods. RCA quickly realized their mistake. Teenagers, his primary audience, weren't buying high-end family furniture. The entire ad campaign was scrapped. This rare photo captures a meeting of two music giants, Elvis Presley and Roy Orbison. It was taken in the late spring of 1957 at the Memphis home of their shared mentor, Sun Records founder Sam Phillips. Both men are showing off some new accessories. Elvis is wearing a medallion gifted to him by a fan during his concert in Ottawa, Canada, on April 3rd of that year. Roy Orbison is sporting his Ooby Dooby diamond ring, a symbol of his first major hit. This photo is significant because it shows the two former Sun label mates connecting after Elvis had become the biggest star on the planet. Their hair is even similarly styled and dyed black. Roy Orbison himself reportedly gave a copy of this photo to a mutual friend. Elvis's 1960 film Flaming Star was more than just a movie, it was a cultural flashpoint. In the film, Elvis played Pacer Burton, a young man with a white father and a Kiowa mother, caught between two worlds. This was one of his most serious and dramatic acting attempts. To honor his portrayal, Elvis was inducted into the Los Angeles Indian Tribal Council, a moment he reportedly took very seriously. However, the film's mature theme of a biracial family was incredibly controversial for its time. When the movie was released nationwide, it was immediately banned by the government of South Africa. The country's strict apartheid laws prohibited any media that depicted or discussed racial mixing. Flaming Star remains one of Elvis's most important films. While Elvis's famous red BMW 507 is a legend, it wasn't his first. This is the story of his other one. On December 21, 1958, while stationed in Germany, Elvis leased this white BMW 507. But this was no ordinary car. It was a used vehicle with a serious pedigree. It had previously been the personal race car of German racing legend Hans Stuck, known as the King of the Hill Climbs. Elvis was aware of its history. The dealer assured Elvis that because Stuck had raced it, the engine was very well run in. It was, however, modified from its racing setup to be more suitable for Elvis's daily use. This was the stunning, race-proven 507 that Elvis drove before he acquired the one he would famously paint red. This photo captures the incredible, tight-knit community of Sun Records artists in 1956. This is Elvis with fellow rockabilly musician Warren Smith. Both were friends with Roy Orbison, who was also at Sun. These early rockers were known for helping each other out. In fact, Warren Smith's band often pulled double duty. On their 1956 tour, they would play a full set backing Roy Orbison, then quickly switch clothes backstage and come right back out to play another set as Warren Smith's band. This photo is likely from June 1, 1956, at the Overton Park Shell in Memphis. Elvis, by then a national superstar, returned to his hometown stage and graciously introduced Roy Orbison to the massive crowd, giving his friend a huge boost. This is one of the most emotional days of Elvis's entire career. On September 26, 1956, Elvis returned to his tiny birthplace of Tupelo, Mississippi for the first time as a global superstar. The entire town declared it Elvis Presley Day. He was performing at the Mississippi-Alabama Fair, the same fair where he had first sung in a talent contest at age 10. This photo captures a private moment amid the chaos. You can see his mother, Gladys, lovingly holding a small puppy. This was Sweet Pea, a dog Elvis had just gifted her. While thousands of fans were screaming outside, this image shows him grounded, back home with his family, sharing a simple, tender moment with his beloved mother before he went on stage. It's hard to believe, but this is Elvis Presley. This incredibly rare, candid snapshot captures Elvis away from the stage lights and screaming fans, simply relaxing in his own backyard. Many photos from this era are blurry or grainy, making moments like this even more precious. But when you look closely, there's no mistaking him. This is the side of Elvis his fans rarely got to see. Graceland was his sanctuary, his fortress against the pressures of fame. It was the one place on earth where he could let his guard down, trade the jumpsuit for casual clothes, and just be himself. This photo isn't about the performer. It's a fleeting, unfiltered glimpse of the man, enjoying a simple, quiet moment of peace at home, far from the hysteria. Elvis's life in early 1958 was a whirlwind of film, music, and romance. This photo features actress Valerie Allen, who Elvis dated from January 1958 right up until he left for the Army. Valerie was friends with Dolores Hart, Elvis's co-star in Loving You and King Creole, and she met Elvis while visiting Dolores on set. This period was famously complicated. Elvis's main girlfriend at the time was Anita Wood. His relationship with Valerie Allen happened at the same time. This photo is from March 12, 1958, during a farewell party thrown by producer Hal Wallace. It was an Army-themed Bond party on the set of King Creole, his last film before leaving for basic training, and a final goodbye to his Hollywood life. Elvis's co-stars were often his romantic interests, even if just briefly. This is actress Anne Nealand, who played a small but memorable role in the 1957 classic Jailhouse Rock. She was one of Elvis's fellow cast members, and according to her, they shared a brief relationship for several months, from roughly May to November 1957. This relationship, like many, happened while Elvis was also involved with his long-term girlfriend at the time, Anita Wood. His life in 1957 was a blur of newfound fame, filmmaking, and touring. That same period, he was also linked to other women, including actress Jean Carmen and Las Vegas beauty queen Joan Adams. This photo captures one of the many women who briefly became part of the King's whirlwind orbit. This isn't just a car, it's a legend. This is Elvis's iconic 1956 Cadillac Eldorado. As this 1957 photo shows, he loved greeting fans from the driver's seat. The car is famous for its Elvis customization, white leather seats, and deep purple fur carpeting. The story of its color is pure rock and roll. Elvis originally bought the car in Texas, and it was white. He drove it back to Memphis, went to a custom shop, and, as the legend goes, smashed a handful of grapes on the hood, telling the painter, "That's the color I want." The shop matched it perfectly, creating this one-of-a-kind purple. They even reportedly dyed the carpets to match, creating a car as flamboyant and unique as the king himself. This photo captures a somber, historic moment, the end of an era. This is Elvis on stage at the Las Vegas Hilton on December 11, 1976. This was the second to last night of what would be his final engagement in Las Vegas, ever. He had first revolutionized the city with his comeback in 1969, and for 7 years, he was its undisputed king. By this point, his health was in serious decline, and the toll was visible. He was performing in his King of Spades jumpsuit. While he was not the dynamic performer of his early Vegas years, the showroom was still packed. The audience was there to pay tribute. This image is a poignant look at one of the last times Elvis would command the stage in the city he had made his own. This is the night the king reclaimed his throne, July 31, 1969. After 8 years away from live audiences, Elvis Presley was terrified. He was opening at the brand new International Hotel in Las Vegas, unsure if the world still wanted him. Midway through his explosive, triumphant set, he finally relaxed and addressed the star-studded crowd. He joked, "Welcome to the big, freaky International Hotel, with those weirdo dolls on the walls, and man, you ain't seen nothing until you've seen a funky angel." He then added, "Before the evening's out, I'm sure I will have made a complete and utter fool out of myself, but I hope you get a kick out of watching." He didn't. It was a historic triumph that launched the next chapter of his career. Elvis's generosity was just as legendary as his voice. This touching photo was taken on February 4, 1958, on the Paramount set of his film King Creole. Elvis took a break from filming to spend time with a young fan, signing a copy of his Teddy Bear single for the boy. The image is so powerful it was used on the cover of the book Elvis, a Humanitarian. This moment perfectly illustrates a core part of his character. Elvis once famously said, "I could never get rich enough to forget what it's like to be poor." He lived those words, giving away cars, homes, and millions of dollars to friends, family, and total strangers. This photo isn't a publicity stunt, it's a genuine expression of his kindness. Before the world knew his name, Elvis was conquering Texas, one club at a time. This wonderful photo was taken on October 15, 1955, at the Fair Park Auditorium in Lubbock. Elvis is seen with Ralph Lowe Jr., the young son of the owner of the Cotton Club, a legendary venue where Elvis had performed. The little boy, holding his own toy guitar, is clearly imitating his idol. Elvis, in turn, is looking on with a sweet, genuine smile. This image is a perfect example of his early, electrifying impact. He wasn't just a singer, he was a phenomenon that inspired everyone, even the youngest kids, to pick up a guitar. It shows the mutual adoration between Elvis and his youngest fans, a bond that lasted his entire life. During his army service in Germany, Elvis found a home away from home. This 1959 photo shows Elvis in Bad Nauheim with a young boy named Chris Cardamar. Chris's father was the director of the American Youth Association, or AYA, a local recreation center. Elvis frequently visited the Cardamar family, developing a very close bond with them. Chris's mother, in particular, became a second mother to Elvis while he was stationed so far from home. Their connection was deep and lasting. According to the family, she left a private letter for Elvis. Her specific wish was that he should only open and read it after she had passed away. It's a testament to the profound, personal friendships he formed during his time as a soldier. This fun-filled photo from the set of Jailhouse Rock wasn't as spontaneous as it looks. This is Elvis in May 1957 with his co-star Jennifer Holden. Elvis himself later revealed the story behind this classic shot. A photographer on set thought it would make a great, energetic picture. Elvis explained, "He asked if we could hold each other around the waist and jump in the air laughing. But the simple publicity shot turned into chaos." Elvis recalled, "We were hysterical because we couldn't even get up from the floor laughing." This image doesn't just capture two actors posing. It captures the genuine, youthful energy and fun that was happening on the set of one of his most iconic films. Even the king of rock and roll could be a goofball. This famous photo was captured by Alfred Werthemeyer on July 4, 1956. Elvis was on a long train ride from New York back home to Memphis. To pass the time, he decided to have some fun at his manager's expense. As Werthemeyer tells it, Elvis grabbed Colonel Tom Parker's hat, tilted it to the side, and began doing a full-on impersonation of him. He started barking orders at everyone in an exaggerated Southern accent, perfectly mimicking the Colonel's gestures. As you can see in the photo, the Colonel, in the foreground, is completely ignoring the joke and continuing his conversation. Elvis, realizing his prank wasn't landing, just shrugged and put the hat back. In 1965, Elvis returned to his favorite filming location, Hawaii, but the magic was starting to fade. This was for his 1966 film Paradise, Hawaiian Style, his third and final movie set in the islands. Colonel Parker was desperately trying to replicate the massive box office success of 1961's Blue Hawaii. This photo captures a special moment during the filming. Elvis, seen in the center, is being honored in a traditional Hawaiian ceremony. He is flanked by his close friends and Memphis Mafia members, Marty Lacker on the left and Charlie Hodge on the right. Members of his entourage were always present on his film sets, often appearing as extras. This image shows the deep respect and love Elvis always had for the islands. This is one of the most famous outfits in music history, yet Elvis barely wore it. This is the legendary head-to-toe gold lame suit, designed for Elvis by the famous Nudie Cone. This photo was taken on April 2, 1957, at the Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto, Canada. What many fans don't realize is that Elvis only wore the full suit, jacket, pants, shoes, and tie for 3 concerts in his entire life: Chicago, St. Louis, and this one in Toronto. This photo, therefore, captures the last time he ever wore the complete outfit. Why? The gold leaf on the pants was notoriously heavy, and it began to flake and shed. After this, he would wear the gold jacket with black pants, but the full suit was retired. Long before the Memphis Mafia, there was just Elvis and his cousin Gene. This incredibly early photo from around 1951 shows Elvis with his cousin Gene Smith. They are standing outside the Lowe's State Theater in Memphis, where a teenage Elvis briefly worked as an usher. Gene and Elvis grew up together and were inseparable. When fame hit, Gene was Elvis's first road companion and a founding member of his entourage. He was with Elvis everywhere in those early years. Their close relationship, however, hit a breaking point. In 1962, the two had a serious misunderstanding, and Gene was exiled from the inner circle. Though they would later reconnect, this photo captures a simpler, more innocent time. How did photographer Alfred Wertheimer get such intimate photos of Elvis? This is how. This photo was taken on July 4, 1956, in the small bathroom of a train headed to Memphis. Wertheimer, the photographer, said Elvis was unique. He allowed absolute closeness, letting the camera get within feet of his face without changing his behavior. Wertheimer said, "Most of the time, Elvis never knew I was taking a picture of him." This shot is part of a famous sequence. After washing his hands, Elvis reached for a paper towel, but the dispenser was empty. Wertheimer captured the split-second image of Elvis shaking his hands dry. It's an unguarded human moment, captured just before Elvis became too famous for anyone to get this close again. In 1972, shortly after his separation from Priscilla, Elvis met model Linda Thompson. She would become his most serious and devoted partner for the next 4 years. But their relationship was far from a fairy tale. As Elvis's health declined due to his prescription drug use, Linda became his primary caretaker. She later described the exhausting reality. "I would sit and watch him until he fell asleep," she recalled. "Then I would get up all through the night to check on his breathing because sometimes he wasn't." She said it was emotionally exhausting to love someone more than her own life while being powerless to save them. She finally left in late 1976 for her own well-being, unable to watch him self-destruct. By 1962, Elvis was a movie-making machine, but he was also deeply restless. On September 17, while on a Hollywood set, Elvis gave a long, revealing interview. He showed his private, intellectual side, speaking at length about his deep interest in philosophy. He even mentioned that he often read medical texts and sometimes wished he could have become a doctor. He talked about his entourage, saying, "It is important to surround yourself with people who can give you a little happiness." But he also expressed his frustration, noting he was hesitant to make any major changes in his career. He felt trapped. He knew entertaining people was his job, but this interview reveals he was already yearning to explore new, more serious directions. This is the king receiving one of his first crowns. This photo was taken at Graceland on March 20, 1960, just days after Elvis returned home from the army. He is being presented with a crown by Joyce Gentry, a representative from a local fan club. This photo gives a rare look at the original decor of Graceland's famous TV room. This is before it was famously redecorated in the 1970s with the iconic navy blue and yellow color scheme and the 3 built-in television sets. What's amazing is that the small painting seen in the corner, just over Elvis's shoulder, is still hanging in that exact same spot in the room at Graceland today. It's a small, unchanged piece of history. Even while in the army, Elvis was a marketing machine. This photo shows Elvis giving an interview in 1959 at his rented home in Bad Nauheim, Germany. He's speaking with a correspondent from Bravo, Germany's biggest and most popular teen magazine. With Elvis overseas, Colonel Parker had to get creative. He teamed up with Bravo for a massive promotional contest. The grand prize? An afternoon with Elvis. On April 19, 1959, 4 lucky German girls, the contest winners, were brought to his home to spend the day with him. This photo shows him in his public role, but the contest itself was a classic Colonel Parker move, ensuring that even Private Presley remained the most famous entertainer in the world. Only the king of rock and roll could pull off a look this extravagant. This is Elvis's personal, full-length, bright red wool coat from the 1970s. It features dramatic black fur trim and even an attached cape, all set with a red satin lining. The label reads "Fantastic International Fashions," which perfectly describes his over-the-top style during this era. This coat was likely reserved for special occasions, as it remained in pristine condition. Like most of Elvis's wardrobe, it was eventually given as a gift to a member of his inner circle. This magnificent piece was given to his valet and driver, Richard Davis. It was later sold at auction in 2016, a stunning museum-quality example of his 1970s persona. This photo captures a crucial moment, Elvis's big return to Hollywood. This is Elvis in 1960 on the set of GI Blues, his first movie after being discharged from the army. The entire world was watching. He is pictured here with film choreographer Charles O'Curran. O'Curran was one of Elvis's most trusted collaborators in Hollywood, having already choreographed his moves in Loving You and King Creole. He was an industry veteran, famously married to stars like Betty Hutton and Patti Page. For GI Blues, O'Curran was tasked with creating dance numbers that fit Elvis's new, clean-cut soldier image. This film was a massive box office hit, setting the formula for most of his movies throughout the 1960s. Elvis had a special connection with his youngest co-stars. This heartwarming photo was taken in 1961 on the Florida set of his movie Follow That Dream. Elvis is seen holding 3-year-old Pam Ogles, one of the actresses in the film. The little blonde girl in the movie was actually played by 2 people, Pam and her twin sister, Pat. Using twins is a common filmmaking technique, as it allows for longer shooting days without overworking a single child. As cast members from all his films have recalled, Elvis was always incredible with children. He made a special effort to make them feel comfortable and special on set, and this photo beautifully captures that gentle, playful side of his personality. This photo is from a famous leave Elvis took while stationed in Germany. On March 4, 1959, he and his buddies traveled to Munich. They checked into the Edelweiss Hotel and then spent the evening at the famed Moulin Rouge nightclub. Elvis, of course, received the star treatment and got reacquainted with the chorus girls from the show. According to reports, one dancer named Mary Ann even had a routine dedicated to him. After the final show, some of the chorus girls were invited to join Elvis and his friends at their hotel for a late-night party. As one of his friends recalled, the whole trip was a whirlwind, summed up as girls, girls, and more girls, a superstar living his life.